PJNet.tv. It is 9 p.m. on the eastern coast of the United States. It is time for PJNet.tv Live. Our bumper's running. We have a chat room waiting. We're recording. We're streaming. We're doing everything right. Let's switch to Studio 8 in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, good evening and welcome to PJNet.tv. I'm your host, Coach Prasick. I'm the luckiest man in the world to sit in this place and be a part of what we do here Monday through Thursday. And tonight is the first Tuesday of the month. Normally at this time, Ben Cooper would be our live guest, but Ben thought he had some other commitments that have subsequently been canceled. So what he did is arranged for a wonderful friend of anybody who is, well, she's just a wonderful friend to everybody that meets her, I think. She will testify that. Starr, let's bring you into our studio here at the Eagle's Nest, and very gracious of you to fill in for Ben, although I just see he's in the chat room and said the class that he was obligated to teach had been canceled. So you've been,
I know.
You've
You
been
set me up.
You have been set up, Starr.
Thank you, Ben.
Folks, this is not.
Hey, back.
Yep. Oh, yeah. You got it. Yeah, and you have friends too. The last time Starr appeared with us, I failed in my duty to ask a question that is of eminent importance to all that know her. If you see her post on social media, you will see a bar stool this color. And I failed to ask her what the significance is. Is that your brand, Starr? Please, there got to be a story.
I think it's fast becoming my brand, but it didn't start out to be my brand. We just were coming home from church one day and pulled into the garage, and I glanced over at the corner beside my husband's workbench, and there was this chrome stool with a red top. And I said, "Where did that stool come from?" And he said, "I got it from your aunt's estate about 12 years ago. It's been sitting there the whole time, and he uses it to work on he's got an Austin Healey, and he uses it to work on his Austin Healey." And so my brain just kind of started going like artist brains do. And I thought, oh, I got a plan for that stool. And so I immediately took it outside and I started photographing it. And my husband's just kind of standing there, just looking at me like, "What are you doing?" And I thought, the stool is mine. It's mine now. And so it's been in the back, it sits in the back seat of my car. I put the back seat of the car up and just kind of sit it in the back so that if I see something that I can just call that stool out and take some photos. And that is the way I wind down. I have always loved photography. I love especially iPhone photography. And so it's just the way I relax, is to get out in nature or whatever and take that stool and take pictures of it. And then I come home, and a lot of times I don't even know what I'm going to do with the photo that I took, but I take pictures of it, and then I come home and God eventually just kind of pricks my mind with a thought about how I can use that photograph that I just took. And so I've loved it, and I think, a lot of people on social media like following the stool, and so it's just been fun.
Well, Starr, I would urge you,
break.
When you're traveling, to obey the speed limit, because should you ever be pulled over, it's going to be difficult for a law enforcement officer to believe that you are actually a sane and rational individual. And explain that stool in the back. Oh, no, well, you're so famous, he probably would know about it.
Yep.
So,
well, I get quite a few looks when I'm walking down the street carrying the red stool, but anyway, I'm used to it.
I'm glad that you take time to just get out and share your adventures with the stool with us, because your life outside of that must be like being in a blender.
It's pretty intense sometimes. Especially this year's been intense because we've been in edits for my upcoming novel. So it's been a really intense year. It's been intense for everybody, has it not, with COVID?
Yeah,
It's just been a really wild year.
I'm thinking how to, incorporate 2020 into my litany of curse words that could be substituted for profanity. Uh, how you feeling? 2020. 20. Hey, 20. Go to 2020. Do something like that. So
Oh man.
we can't do it fast
Yeah.
enough. Tell us about what's going in your life professionally.
Okay, this January 1, 2021 is the release of my debut novel, For the Love of Emma. And that will be the ebook release. The print release will come out a couple of weeks before that. So we're hoping that'll come out around the 10th of December. And by the end of this month, we should have a cover reveal, and Amazon will start pre-ordering. We can pre-order with Amazon. So I'm excited. It's getting close.
Well, we've been hearing about it for some time. Now, this book is
Yeah.
based upon, if I recall, the story, the inspiration goes back to cleaning up an attic.
Yes. This has been like a 5 or 6 year journey for me. So it's amazing that we're coming down to the wire now. But it's a time slip novel. It's told in 3 different points of view, and it goes from the contemporary characters of Caroline and Kate to the historical characters of Emma and Noah. And the story begins as the sisters find this box of letters in their mother's trunk after she dies, and they are just simply captivated by this romance that begins to unfold between their mother, who was a waitress at the Rainbow Restaurant in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and this young soldier from Jonesville who was stationed there at Fort Bragg. And in reading the letters, they found out that they were very serious about one another and were even planning to get married. And so they set out to find out more about this young man. And also, as they were reading through the letters, they found a note in the box, and it was a request that their mother had put in there 64 years earlier. And so they are determined that they are going to fulfill their mother's request. And so that's what the journey of the book is about. And as it winds down, they do find some degree of closure in the whole process. But then again, they encounter another surprising revelation that just plunges them deeper into the past. And of course, that sets up the story for book 2, which will be Emma's Quest, and it will come out in April 2022, I think. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, you've got your calendar filled up through 2022, but yeah, you're known for being active and busy. But in spite of that, we were talking off the air. You've been in this long enough, you do it well enough that people come to you seeking advice, and your stool I have used as an example of building your brand. Just anything that can be visualized and associated with your work. And my definition of branding is how you are known outside of the work that you do. Who are you? But similarly, you are approached when I see you in conferences and such. You're usually surrounded by some younger people who are new to the business, drawing upon the wealth and experience that you have. What do you offer them when they approach you?
I think the main thing that I could tell anybody is perseverance. I mean, it requires so much, and they have to realize that they're just not going to be able to write their story and it's just magically going to appear on the page. So there's a lot of intense work that goes into it. And if you're not sincerely dedicated, and to tell you the truth, with me, if it hadn't been a call, if it hadn't been a ministry, I would not have made it. But when God calls you to something, you hang in there because you know that there's something happening that's bigger than you are, and you just follow Him. But that's the main thing, is just to be sure that you're in it for the right reason and that it's not all about you, because there's so much more than that involved. I mean, there's so many wonderful people that you meet, and you want to help them along too. So you can't go in with the attitude that it's just all about me and I'm going to get my book published and I'm going to be, a world famous author, because there's just so much more that goes along with it. And a lot of those people sitting in that chat room right now are the friendships that you make, and those are some of the best friends that you can ever have in the world.
I'm not a writer, but I've had similar experiences as a programmer, developer of software. And I'm a little more brutal or brutally candid than you are when they address me, because I say, first of all, you did allude to, you need to have a passion for your work. Okay, and that's good. The problem is that no one on this earth thinks more of your project than you. You're that passionate about it, and it should be that way. Flip that coin over. What that means is everybody else in the world thinks less of your idea than you do. And the stark, okay, yeah, that hit, didn't it? Don't let your passion for your idea blind you to the critique and the reality of the deficiencies, inefficiencies, or work that needs to be corrected or edited or whatever the process may be. Because if you're not coachable,
absolutely,
you're not going to make it. And when people who you respect, who have experience, when, like yourself, people that have been down this trail a few times before, offer criticism, they're not trying to hurt your feelings, I hope. I think they're trying to say, this is what the public who doesn't know who you are will think about it. And you only really have, I don't know, software is a little different, but in a book, you're competing in an ocean of publications. How have you not drowned yourself in that ocean? How has your work managed to stay afloat?
It's focus. My blog is called Bringing Life into Focus, and it's focus. You just have to stay focused. And like I said, like you're saying, being teachable, isn't that true in all of life? We have to be teachable, and we have to be focused. We have to be teachable. And, I've been trained for years because I'm an artist, and I grew up from high school on receiving critiques on my artwork and whatever. And so I think it was a little bit easier for me coming into this, having had all of those critiques in the past for the visual arts, to realize that when someone is critiquing your work, it is to make you better, and it's to make your work better. It's not to tamp you down or to lower your self-esteem or your thoughts about your project, but to make it the best that it can be. And so I've just been surrounded with a wonderful publisher and team of people all through this process, through the past 5, 6, 7 years of going to conferences and people just being willing to pour out their soul to us and tell us everything that they know, and it's been so refreshing, because in the visual arts business, it's a lot more competitive, and that people don't want to give away their trade secrets. So this has been just really refreshing, and I've just enjoyed the whole process. But you really have to believe in what you're doing and know that you're called to do it.
Well, I observed once I began to interact with Christian writers at these conferences. As a football coach, I drew a stark contrast because I saw this, what you just described. I would see people literally telling each other their trade secrets. And there's a wise Indian proverb. There are two secrets to success. Number one, don't tell everything you know. People usually say,
And
"What?" And I'm not telling you the other one.
you're not going to tell me the other one?
And but
Because you're not going to tell everything you know, right? So
because
you're not
I'm going
going to
to
tell me the other
observe
one.
principle number one. Principle number two remains a mystery. So,
Yeah.
but as a coach, I mean, we were in a very, very competitive business. Okay, football, winning. But if we are the host team, I was one of the ones that welcomed the team and showed them where they could park their butt. In other words, I was kind of in charge of hospitality. So we were certainly hospitable. We were certainly loving and warm. But by no means was I going to give them anything that would assist them in winning the game. I wanted them to feel welcomed. I wanted them to feel respected. And of course, that's actually the easy part when they arrive. The hard part's getting them out of there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
After you've beaten them.
That definitely was the attitude in when I owned another business that was with the visual arts. And I designed stationery for 13 years and wholesaled it nationwide. And I would go to the New York stationery show. I would go to all of these stationery shows, and I would just want to know where somebody got their envelopes, and they wouldn't want to give it to me because
Mm-hmm. No.
it was
Yeah.
going to cut in on their profit.
It might give you an advantage. Starr, I
Yeah.
wasn't aware that you were a visual artist. Was it a transition? When did you make it and why?
My dad was an artist. I'm a third generation artist. His father painted, but he didn't do it professionally. My dad did it professionally, and so I always grew up thinking that I was going to walk in his shoes and I was going to be a visual artist, and I did. I went to art school, and I picked it up, became a commercial artist. Did a lot of limited edition prints. Like I say, I designed stationery for 13 years under my own name, sold it, wholesaled it under my own name. And then after about 13 years of that, I was just ready to retire. I was ready to get off of that treadmill. I had no prospects of wanting to have another career, have another business. And then here we are. We're selling books. I didn't plan this. God just called me. He called me through a friend who invited me to a conference, and when I went to that
That was it.
conference, it was like boom. This is what you're going to do with the rest of your life. So,
I've seen
oh
this
man.
dynamic at play. Starr, in the couple minutes we have left, first of all, thank you for doing that wonderful promo video. I know that you love doing videos, and in there you said that you had some advice for authors who are working the major hurdle. And if I missed it before, please repeat it.
Well, no, this is just a challenge that I have had to face in the last, since mid-August. I have had very poor vision since the middle of August. Everything kind of went out of focus, and I've been trying to regain my focus literally with my eyes for 2 months now, and they are so much better. And I am seeing pretty clearly again. I'm not where I need to be, but I had just come off like 4 months of really intense edits, and not that my publisher had you know wanted me to do so much, but I was just hard on myself, and I made a lot of changes. And so it really took a toll on my eyes, and I didn't realize it was, but then I ended up with 3 styes in my lower eyelids, and I had to go to the eye doctor and have them opened up. And then they treated them with steroids, steroid ointment, and then I was told that the steroid pitted my corneas. And so then I had to go on some Theratears to smooth my corneas back over. So through the whole final read, my final read for my book was from August 22nd to September 22nd, and I read that book with double vision on the computer with like everything out of focus. And the more I read, the worse it got. And I spent that whole last few weeks editing my book with my nose like almost pressed up against the computer screen. I could not see. It was terrifying, and I really didn't know at that point what was wrong with my eyes. But anyway, besides the styes, and but I ended up finding out through reading and everything that there is an epidemic, and I wanted to say that tonight, that there is an epidemic of this computer-related dry eye disease, and I have the watery tears. But what happens is, if I was going to sit across the table from you and talk to you for a minute, my blink rate would probably be 21 to 22 blinks a minute. But when you're staring at a computer, that blink rate goes down to 6 to 7 blinks a minute. And when that happens, the glands, the oil glands in your eyes begin to clog up, and they get blocked. And because when you blink, that puts the oil film over your cornea, and then it keeps your tears from evaporating as quickly. But if you don't have that oil film, then your tears your eyes are drying out. And so I ended up with inflamed corneas. And so I was told to use drops with oil in them, and omega 3 supplement. So there's things that you can do for it, but it's a chronic condition. Once it starts, you're probably pretty much maybe off and on going to have to deal with it every now and then. But I am just so thankful that I can see you pretty clearly today, Mark, because 2 months ago it would have been horrible.
I had no idea.
God is good. God is good. And when we go through a trial, the one thing I want to say in closing, probably here, when we go through a trial, I always try to ask God, where are you in this? And the only thing worse than going through a trial is going through a trial and missing the point. And coming out on the other side of the trial and not having been changed, or not having learned anything through the whole process. And so God really began to speak to me through this when I was desperate for my vision. I wanted my sight back so bad, and I thought, I'm going to have a book and I'm not even going to be able to see it clearly. And I was so desperate for my vision, and God just kind of whispered in my spirit, if you are only as desperate for spiritual eyes as you are physical eyes, what could I do? Yeah. And so it's kind of, it's made me think about things that, in the Bible, in Luke 18, God healed the blind man. And at the close of the story, it talks about how the blind man was following Jesus down the road, and he was jumping and he was screaming, and just praising God for what he had done for him. And basically what you're seeing there is that the man had learned to walk in the way of Jesus. And that is what God is after in us, is that even through our trials, he is wanting us to learn to walk in his way and to have spiritual eyes to see.
Profound. Starr, we're out of time, but I'm glad we hung in there for that last one. That one will surely make the highlights clip. We so much appreciate you sharing and filling in for our good friend, Ben Cooper, tonight. Appreciate you sharing.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you so much for having me. I've enjoyed it.
There you go. pjnet.tv is on the air, and we are wrapping this up right now. But don't leave. Don't touch that dial. I promise you. We have Dale Didway coming at the bottom of the hour, as he does every Tuesday night. About that time, I've got to retool this studio in preparation for him. Before I leave, I would like to ask you to ask yourself 2 questions. What is the boldest thing that you have ever done for Jesus Christ? And secondly, how long ago was that? If we are to desperately seek, as Starr just said, a walk with Jesus, we can really never allow ourselves to be satisfied with our answers to either of those 2 questions.